against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever, Warren.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Saw you when you went to go speak in Nashville.
Yeah.
So, you talked about crypto. You said that crypto can help with that. You mentioned that it's somewhat like gold. Do you think that, when you get back in office, you would still fully support crypto? And I just saw that the U.S. government, ever since you spoke about it, they're selling crypto. They're selling it. What would you do if you were in office with crypto?
It's something they shouldn't be doing because they should be trying to build it. So if we don't do it, China's doing it, other places are doing it, and they're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And it's a very modern currency. It's a very modern form. And I know a lot of very good people that are really into that world and into that market. They're smart, they're good people, and they think it's going to be very beneficial. And remember this, though, it's very important. It's like AI. Do you love it? Not like it? If we don't do it, China's going to do it, or other people are going to do it.
Yeah.
And we can't be left behind. And crypto is right in that sphere. And it is a form of currency. And if China's already doing it, but if we don't do it, they're going to do it.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to save that one. Dude, I mean, guys, welcome to the Bitcoin Live. Watch Daily Bitcoin Live.
I threw a curveball on Nico today.
YouTube, Rumble, and X. Sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. Anyways, we'll be your guide through the separation money state. Anyways, the Trumpster in the beginning. I mean, that stream that he did with Aiden Ross yesterday, talk about breaking the Overton window. I know a lot of Bitcoiners, and our team included, we're not happy. Like, it's the commingling of the word crypto and Bitcoin. They're totally separate. Bitcoin is unique. Bitcoin is the only currency that is truly decentralized, and all the rest don't have that. So it doesn't really fix the problem of fiat, where the controllers of money manipulate the rules in order to benefit themselves at the expense of everyone else. You can't do that with Bitcoin. That's what makes it unique. That's what makes it special. That being said, do you remember the first year that you got into the industry? You probably did a little bit of cryptoing, right? So I don't blame the man. I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but I definitely think it's a step in the right direction. What I told the Simply team yesterday is the way that US elections work is realistically, it's going to be Trump versus Kamala. We know how the current administration feels about the industry. They've treated the industry terribly for the last 4 years, which is why even Trump even spoke at the conference. They kind of created that situation. So we kind of have a choice between a pro crypto / Bitcoin president versus a anti-Bitcoin president. And when you're anti-Bitcoin, by default, you're pro-CBDC. I say by default, but they actually are pro-CBDC too. Again, it's interconnected. It's really Bitcoin versus slavery. It's Bitcoin versus CBDCs. What future do you want to live in? But I in terms of moving the Overton window, that is huge. That is massive. Ideally, you'd be saying Bitcoin. But like I said, definitely a step in the right direction. That live stream was that was mainstream. That got millions of views.
I think it was hundreds of millions of views.
Yeah, it absolutely.
It's the biggest stream that's ever been on the internet as of now.
It went absolutely viral. And I mean, the fact that he brought up our up and coming industry. And also, guys, like, this should make you so incredibly bullish, because the fact that, a potential future president of the United States is talking about our industry, talking about our movement that way, means that our movement is that important, that influential, that it's something noteworthy to bring up. So I think, picture yourselves 5 years from now. I remember 5 years ago, and there was no Michael Saylor, there was no public company Bitcoin adoption, there was no nation state Bitcoin adoption. It was really in its infancy. So add 5 years to where we are now, and where do you think we'll be? And to remove any kind of doubt, just let Bitcoin's game theory play out, and you'll know that it's just heading in one direction, and you can't stop this thing. So that's so incredibly bullish. Also have a video of you guys today of Saylor talking about kind of the strategic reserve thing that was mentioned at the Nashville conference. Also, Saylor revealed his Bitcoin stack. I mean, he said it publicly in the past before, but he kind of revealed how much he's made in terms of gains. He basically 10x'd his investment, roughly, no, like a 5x'er. But that's still insane, especially if you invest $100 million, like multiply that by 5, like, you know, that's $500 million, right? So yeah, I mean, just bullish news overall. I definitely think we're headed in the right direction, and we just gotta keep this momentum going, man. So again, I understand how some of you may feel. He did say crypto and say Bitcoin, and Aiden Ross did mention how they're quote unquote selling. The United States was selling its Bitcoin, and of course he wasn't referencing crypto. He was referencing Bitcoin, but look, it's a step in the right direction. This is why there's opportunity. I think if everyone knew what Bitcoin was, then you wouldn't have a 100x in front of you. It'd be like a 10x. So, you know, that's the opportunity for you. And then you can kind of take it upon your shoulders, right? You know, instead of complaining, like, you know, don't ask what Bitcoin could do for you. Ask what you can do for Bitcoin. Anyways,
Well,
Opti, what do you think?
well,
That was your find. So
yeah,
good job on the video.
Two points I want to make. The first point is a great question by Aiden Ross, and I know a lot of Bitcoiners are saying the same thing. It's like, oh, you know, you can't trust Trump when he gets in the office. He's just basically, you know, saying things that get voted in, and when he gets into office, he's going to change his tune real quick. You know, kudos to Aiden Ross for actually like asking him point blank, like, if you get into office, are you going to change your tune? He's like, no, like, this is a new paradigm. And yeah, maybe he's still in his early Bitcoin, you know, crypto journey, and excuse me, and he's still learning. But on that point, we did get some tweets yesterday from the Trump kids, and it seems like they are going full force into the altcoin, shitcoin rabbit hole. So, hey, there's still a lot of education to be had out there, but it is obviously moving the Overton window, and more people are actively talking about Bitcoin as a viable solution, as a viable industry, that it's maturing. So definitely moving things in the right direction. But hey, we still got a lot of work to do here.
Yeah, and I would say, like, another thing, like, something to keep in mind is, like, drop the Bitcoin purity test because of the specific situation that we're in. And the specific situation is you have one side that is just against Bitcoin completely, and then you have one side that's like Bitcoin and crypto, and you only have two choices. So, like, you know, like don't try to, you know, crap on the potential administration that's coming in that, you know, is going to be better overall for the industry as a whole than the other side, which is just going to be hostile. You know, they don't even care about Bitcoin or crypto. They lump it all into one thing, and they're just against the industry altogether. So we really only have two choices here. I know RFK is a choice for sure, but like realistically, it's Trump versus Kamala, right? So that's something to keep in mind. I know it's gonna be very unpopular with Bitcoiners because Bitcoiners like the whole purity thing and whatever, but it's an election year, and I think it's very important for our industry in the U.S. Anyways, lots to get to, but before we do it, I do want to give a very special shout out, of course, to our lead sponsor, and I'm talking about BitcoinWell.com. BitcoinWell.com is the best place to buy your automatic self-custody Bitcoin. That means every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, once the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody wallet address. And support self-custody, because self-custody is a revolution. Enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada and the USA. To get started, all you got to do is you put in your email address, and bada bing, bada boom, within 2 to 3 minutes, you go through the sign-up process, and you're able to buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well. And every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn Bitcoin Well points, and you could redeem those points towards the Bitcoin wishing well. So I'm going to do that right now for you guys. Toss a coin into the Bitcoin wishing well. Did it drop out? Maybe.
Wow, another fail.
Oh God, I gotta hit up the guys.
All right, Adam. All right, boys.
I gotta hit up the boys. Anyways, if you use the QR code on your screen right now, you could use promo code simplybtc to earn points towards the Bitcoin wishing well. We'll fix that bug in a little bit. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers. Lots to talk about.
The Bitcoin numbers.
But I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, the Stamp Seed. Stamp your generational wealth into titanium. Don't write down your generational wealth on paper. Write down your seed phrase or punch your seed phrase into titanium using a hammer. And that's exactly what the Stamp Seed is. It's a professional metal stamping toolkit. Comes with one solid piece of titanium, no loose pieces. It's easy to hide. You buy the kit, you get as many plates as you need. So you only have to buy the kit once. And of course, this is proof of work seed phrase storage. So stamp your generational wealth into titanium. Don't write down your generational wealth on paper. Paper is bad. Titanium is good. All right. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 56,140 sats per dollar, 1,781. Block height, 855,791. Blocks to halving, 194,209. Halving estimate, March 23rd, 2028. Total Lightning Network capacity, 4,819. Capacity value, 270 million. Realized monetary inflation, 1.47%. Market capitalization, 1.11 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 6.71%. In the grand scheme of things, Bitcoin's just getting started. Now connect the dots, what we were just talking about with Trump talking about the industry during the Aiden Ross stream. Like, yes, like obviously he and most people haven't realized the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. But again, imagine 5 years from now. It's going to be totally different. It's going to be a totally different, story. And the Bitcoin versus gold market cap, maybe it's at 50% at that point. Maybe it's at 100%. Who knows? But as more and more people find out about this, it's really like a one-way door, in my opinion. Also, another kind of major news as well. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are going to do a major interview on Monday night. I think Bitcoin Magazine asked a really good question here. Will Bitcoin be discussed? Let's see. We've been talking about Bitcoin breaking into the mainstream consciousness, breaking out of the echo chamber. And I think that's absolutely happening. I think we're seeing it right in front of our eyes. And that's what we want, because really the way that we win this thing, the way that we win the revolution, is we get people to ask the very basic fundamental question, which is, what is money and why should money lose purchasing power in order to function? And of course, that road leads to Bitcoin. All roads lead to Bitcoin. So once you start asking and once you start realizing that the dollar is a scam, that inflation is a scam, you start to seek solutions. And of course, in my opinion, that solution is Bitcoin. Anyways, so I saw Max Kaiser tweet about this. Initially, when El Salvador announced that they were going to make Bitcoin legal tender, the IMF went crazy and the legacy media went nuts. They went bananas. They lost it. It was horrible. And they attacked El Salvador from all sides. It was freaking crazy. And of course, Nayib Bukele held strong. He stood by his convictions, and what do you know? It seems like it's paid off. It seems like all the things that the IMF said was going to happen if El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender didn't really happen, right? So anyways, it goes on to say, an IMF mission led by Mr. Rafael Espinosa issued a statement following in-person and virtual discussions over the past months with the Salvadoran authorities. These discussions focused on policies that could be supported by an IMF program to address microeconomic imbalances and strengthen El Salvador's medium-term growth prospects. Quote, progress has been made in the negotiations towards a fund-supported program focused on policies to strengthen public finances, boost bank reserve buffers, improve governance and transparency, and mitigate the risks from Bitcoin. Ooh. On the fiscal side, you see that there's still... the IMF at least knows what the F is up. They're like, it's not crypto that we got to worry about, it's Bitcoin. Anyways, it goes on to say, on the fiscal side, preliminary understandings have been reached on improving the primary balance by around 3.5% of GDP over a 3-year period to place public debt on sustainable path. Consolidation is expected to be achieved through a balanced set of measures with initial focus focus on rationalizing the public wage bill while providing space for critical social and infrastructure spending. Progress was also made on developing a plan to gradually strengthen financial system reserve buffers in a manner consistent with continued private sector credit and growth. This is also being supported by efforts to reduce the government's reliance on domestic financing through the planned consolidation and potential support from the fund and other multilateral development banks. On the structural side, preliminary understandings were reached on a comprehensive multi-year strategy to enhance governance, transparency, and the overall investment climate. The authorities are well advanced in preparing legislative proposals to address corruption, money laundering vulnerabilities, and weaknesses in the procurement frameworks. This work is being supported by development partners and aims to ensure frameworks are consistent with international best practices. Now, here's the bit that I find absolutely hilarious. On Bitcoin, while many of the risks have not yet materialized, there is a joint recognition that further efforts are needed to enhance transparency and mitigate potential fiscal and financial stability risks from the Bitcoin project. Additional discussions in this and other key areas remain necessary. That passive aggressiveness is like, what we said didn't come true. It still can come true, and we got to address it. We're still going to take care of El Salvador, even though we said we wouldn't because of the Bitcoin law. We're walking that back a little bit. But yeah, like, who the hell do these people like talk as if they run the world? Maybe they do. They sure sound like they sure act and sound like they do. But yeah, I mean, this statement right here. And you can read it over and over again. Like, that to me is it just tells me we're winning. And, you know, and of course, like, they can't, like, the IMF, you know, this is like, the reason they don't like Bitcoin is because this is what the developing countries rely on the IMF to develop, or the IMF loans. If there's an alternative, like, it threatens the whole system, right? So I just find it funny how a little bit of passive aggressivity and saying, like, you know what we said was going to happen is not happening. But, you know, there's still stability risks and all that. It doesn't come from fiat. Obviously, it comes from Bitcoin. You know, and how they call it the Bitcoin project. Like, no, this got passed into law. Like, this isn't a project, and this isn't a pilot program. So it's interesting. That one little sentence, that one little paragraph says a lot. Anyways, Opti, am I reading too much into it, bro? I feel like like, you know, it's very interesting. Very interesting.
I mean, excuse me, I'm not surprised that the IMF is writing an article, even though, like, if you really read between the lines, they're like, okay, they're doing pretty good. But hey, the risks haven't materialized yet. We're going to keep an eye on this, which just goes to show that they don't want this signal of allowing Bitcoin in your country, saving in Bitcoin, to continue to proliferate to more countries. And so, of course, they got to do some kind of, you know, cover here so that they don't seem like they're wrong. Again, it's all like legitimacy games that are being played out right now, where if you are a Bitcoiner, if you've been following this story for as long as we have, you've been watching the show with us, then you guys know what we know, and what we always say is like, well, like Nico said it, like, who really cares what the IMF says? Obviously, they have the most control in the world right now, and everyone is beholden to some IMF loans. And now that El Salvador is basically like, nah, we don't need it, bro, like, we're doing pretty good, they're like, okay, so maybe it's not as bad as we thought it was, but there's still time for it to get bad. So I find it interesting that we even got this statement in the first place. And, you know, I'm not surprised. It's just academic games. And these people out here, all the people in power and all the institutions have to do cover for the fact that Bitcoin is doing so well. It's becoming a mainstream conversation. It's becoming a presidential topic here. And it's going to be one of the defining conversations in this year's elections in the US. And further, moving forward, it's going to be one of the defining conversations in the world. Like, the game theory is playing out in real time. And of course, the IMF has to do some cover and do some damage control here, because, hey, didn't they say, if I remember, yeah, exactly, they're trying to remain relevant. If I remember correctly, weren't they saying that El Salvador was going to blow up in like a year or two, and now it's been what, like a couple of years and they're like, no, we're doing really well. Like, this is great. Life's good. So again, it's damage control. The IMF is trying to play cover for themselves and show that, oh, wait, you know, there's still time for this to go bad. But as of now, we've been wrong, which just continues to go down the Bitcoin derangement syndromes that we constantly see come out of the institutions and the corporate press. It's hard for the Keynesians out there to wrap their head around the fact that Bitcoin hasn't died. And so they're going to continue to pull statements and post statements like this. But I don't know. It sounds like the IMF is bullish on El Salvador and the Bitcoin strategy.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to say it in their own passive aggressive way. And they're basically they're pulling a Peter Schiff and saying like, this is going to zero. But you know, like you can't hide, like you can't, like everything they said was wrong. Look, one of the things, like, I think like the smoking gun was when they gave Argentina another loan to get bailed out. Argentina like went into hyperinflation the year after. And one of the conditions for the loan was essentially you can't adopt Bitcoin. So, and then when El Salvador adopted it, and then again, so like they gave them a loan, Argentina went to shit a year later after the loan. And then everything that they said was going to happen to El Salvador never happened. But here we are a couple years later, and they're basically saying, look, it's not that it's not going to happen. It's that it just hasn't happened yet. Which I find absolutely hilarious. So yeah, they're going to be, you know, biting their tongue for a long time. And we're going to keep updating you guys. But the wording on this really does feel like a sweet, sweet victory. All right, everybody, let's get to news. Lots to talk about today. Let's check it out.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more.
All right, everybody. Remember, not your keys, not your cheese. As the separation of money and state accelerates, self-custody is going to play a pivotal role in this revolution because self-custody is what's going to change things, right? It's a pivotal shift from how we've been doing things for a very long time. So not your keys, not your cheese. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin. And of course, you need a hardware wallet to do that. And we recommend the Passport by Foundation Devices. You can use promo code SIMPLY to get you guys a nice discount. All right. So to address the title of today's video, or live stream better said, Saylor says he personally owns more than 1 million Bitcoin, but I have more details.
Billion with a B.
What did I say? I
Million.
said million? Yeah. So billion with a B. So Neil Jacobs said, Michael Saylor, about 4 years ago, I tweeted that I personally had 17,732 Bitcoin. I haven't sold any Bitcoin, and I continue to acquire more Bitcoin. I believe his average price was about $9,000 or $10,000 per coin. We're currently sitting at, 56,000. So what is that, Opti? Like a 5X? But again, like you put in $100 million and a 5X is like $400 million, right? It's something absolutely insane. So Saylor doesn't only just walk the walk. I think he talks the talk as well. And he's also been making the rounds. Like Saylor right now is, looks like a superhero. His stock MicroStrategy is outperforming everything else. And he went on the Legacy Financial Media and they asked him some things about it. So let's check out the clip.
The comeback in Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of these others is indicative of maybe something that might have more staying power, but it's only a day. Let's go to Natalie Brunell. She is the Coin Store's podcast
That's not the right video. Let me try that one more time.
Wow, dude, you're slipping today.
Here we go. All right, this is the right one. Let's check it out.
As they come off their worst day in nearly 2 years. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is staging a comeback as well, up more than 5%. And crypto-adjacent names like Coinbase and MicroStrategy are also attempting comebacks here. Joining us now to discuss is Michael Saylor, co-founder and chairman of MicroStrategy. Michael, it's great to speak with you. Thanks for being back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we did see this mini crash in Bitcoin yesterday. It's traded as a risk-on asset, considered a proxy for liquidity in the markets. At least one technician I've spoken to in the last 24 hours said we're really range-bound here, up to 61,000. What's the next catalyst? What breaks it out?
You know, I think the events of Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville a few weeks ago were just very catalytic and marked an inflection point for Bitcoin. You had presidential candidates, you had governors, you had senators, you had House members, you had CEOs, you had billionaire investors in the audience. Senator Lummis presented a strategic Bitcoin reserve bill, and that's our Louisiana Purchase moment. What happened there was the Overton window shift. Now it's possible to discuss nation states holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And if nation states are going to buy it, then it's reasonable for institutions, corporations, and individuals to buy it as well. So that was tremendous.
And former President Trump got behind the idea, too. So it's a good idea? You think a strategic reserve for Bitcoin is a good idea?
Well, Thomas Jefferson purchased the Louisiana Territory for $15 million in 1803 and nearly double the size of the United States. Seward paid $7 million for Alaska. It's got $1 trillion of oil underneath it. Everybody's going to be doing business in cyberspace. Bitcoin is scarce, desirable digital property. It's a great idea to trade a little bit of currency or paper for some place that billions of people are going to want to be in 100 years. So yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Interesting. I mean, I feel like there's always been this ethos around Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general that they're decentralized, digital gold. You've called it digital real estate in the past, and it's sort of a hedge against inflation. It's a hedge against government spending too much money, for example. So the idea that governments would be holding it seems like it goes against that.
You know, it's desirable property. And if you're capitalizing a country based upon scarce desirable property, buying Manhattan, buying the United States, buying Alaska, anywhere you can do business, it's the basis of a great empire. So, no, I think it's a good idea for a nation, but it's an equally good idea for a corporation, an individual, a family, or the like.
Okay, so Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is clearly on the ballot. What's at stake then in November?
You know, and what you have is two constituencies. You've got traditional finance, and traditional finance operates 19% of the time. It costs $40 million to take a company public. You know, there's no credit, there's no liquidity on the weekend. Bitcoin represents a different thing. It represents the 21st century. So I think the millennials are looking at the world today, and they think, electricity, water, elevators, the internet, they operate 100% of the time. Bitcoin operates 100% of the time. Why are we stuck with 20th century banks, money markets, and capital markets that shut us down at 4 p.m. on Friday, don't open up until 9:30 on Monday? You know, if we did that to your food, your water, or your air, it would be considered cruel and unusual punishment.
Damn, bro, that was a mic drop moment from Saylor. I mean, this is something that we've been saying over the last couple of weeks, right? That the Overton window has shifted. He's talking about the pivotal moment that happened. I believe that was in Nashville. And now we played you guys during the cold open. You had Trump on, according to Opti, the most popular live stream in history, apparently, with Aiden Ross. And he's mentioning the industry. Like, clearly this is just going in one direction. And of course, you know, Saylor has such an elegant way of just describing, you know, all of this happening. So yeah, I couldn't be more bullish. I think 2025 is going to be a big year. I think this election, I know a lot of Bitcoiners really don't like the whole political talk, but I think it's very important just because of how the current administration, their stance on the industry, and then how the Trump administration, their stance on the industry. So, and I think that's just going to accelerate. Like, think about what we're advocating for. We're advocating for the separation of money and state. Like, by definition, that sounds somewhat political, right? So I think it was inevitable for these things to be talked about in just like mainstream political discussion. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people, but I think it's just a reality. And I think that once we get over the hump, I think things are just going to be way better. I think humanity is heading into an era of freedom, the likes of which is never seen before, where individuals are basically free from, the chains of these like archaic nation state systems where, I'm going to read you guys the Ron Paul quote because I think it's perfect for what I'm talking about. So this is Ron Paul. This is his quote. He says, 1913, the year that led to today's economic torture, both the income tax and the Fed were created that year. The income tax made everyone's earnings the property of the government first. What the government allows people to keep is then relentlessly stolen by the Fed's inflation. So Ron Paul is correctly pointing out it was 1913 that things were never the same. 1913 is the year that I want you guys to focus on, right? It's not a coincidence that the income tax was introduced the same year, literally the same, you could say the same date that the central bank was introduced. It's almost as if the state took control of people's earnings, people's revenue, right? And then the state is saying, okay, we're going to centrally plan somewhat, and we're going to say, what percentage of your revenue, what percentage of your income can you as an individual keep, right? And remember, when they introduced the income tax, it was only for the wealthy, and it was like 1 or 2 percentage points, right? Now it's like basically half your income, which is insane. And of course, they did that slowly over a period of time. And then I think the last part where Ron Paul is talking about inflation, that's true, right? So not only do they tax your income, they also expect you to use the money that loses purchasing power. This is a central planner's wet dream. This is like how a government controls its people. And essentially what Bitcoin does is it gives you that time back, specifically on the inflation side of the argument. And again, if you're not selling your Bitcoin, if you're earning and mining Bitcoin and you just leave it in cold storage and you're not selling it, you don't have to pay taxes on it until you sell it, right? And then why would you sell Bitcoin for something? Why would you sell something that is absolutely scarce for something that the government could print an infinite amount of? That's only a one-way door, right? So again, this is about the people taking back their sovereignty back from the hands of the state, because that's where it's been. That's what life is like under a fiat standard. And people don't understand how much that affects everyday society. The quality of the foods, the quality of products, it just continues to degrade over time because the money is broken. And then that leads to other unintended consequences, the stability in society, right? All of that. You can make a really good case as to why that comes from broken money. And this has been repeated throughout history. You can make a really good case as to why the Roman Empire collapsed, and one of the reasons for that was the debasement of currency. So you can make a really good argument to that. Now Bitcoin comes along, and this is why Bitcoin and crypto are so different. What I was mentioning earlier on in the show is you can't manipulate the rules of Bitcoin to help yourself. It doesn't matter how powerful you are, how wealthy you are, what percentage of the supply you own. You can't change the rules. You can't manipulate the rules. So everyone's equal in that sense. We've never had that before. And that's what people don't quite understand. And this is why it's such a monumental shift. And this is why when you switch your life to a Bitcoin standard, you start to feel the effects of what it's like living on a sound money standard. And all of a sudden, life gets cheaper over time. So you'll be able to afford things that you normally wouldn't be able to. It's just a matter of saving, right? It's really as simple as that. Buy Bitcoin, earn Bitcoin, mine Bitcoin, put that Bitcoin in self-custody, lock away the key, make sure you know where it is, and just live your life. And over time, your life will get progressively better because things will get progressively cheaper around you when you're living on a Bitcoin standard. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether that's a stock, whether it's a cost of living, whether that's food, right? And now imagine the whole world on that tip. You would say violence would go down, right? Because think about think about it. Like a lot of the instability that's happening in the world right now is because, you know, people are going through poverty, people are struggling. I can make a really good case as to why fiat money is at least half of the reason as to why they're struggling. And Bitcoin is the solution to that. And that's why I believe it's going to radically change the world for the better. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on this, brother? I went a little bit of a sidestepped a little bit, but that Ron Paul quote, man, it was inspirational. I don't think people truly believe, I don't think people truly understand how evil central banking is and how much it's affected their lives. Like they blame a lot of the things, and I see this all the time. Like, oh my God, it's Joe Biden. Oh my God, it's Trump. And it's like, no, it's broken money. Like it boils down to, and think about it. Like, and people may, Nico, you're freaking crazy. Okay, how did you buy the phone that you're watching us on right now? Or the television or the laptop? What did you use? You probably used money, right? So half of every transaction is corrupted. It's broken, right? So like, think about that. Everything so you buy food, you're probably using money. Unless you're exchanging goats or something, but I highly doubt that. You're probably using money.
You're eating goats.
Right, or, yeah, but you're probably using money. Now, imagine if that money's broken. That's essentially what we're saying. And Bitcoin fixes that. So anyways, what's your take on this, Opti?
Yeah, well, it's very interesting when you consider that, you know, the Federal Reserve, first of all, isn't federal and it has no reserves and was created in 1913. We haven't really been living in a capitalist society for the last 100+ years. And yet there's always a lot of conversations about, you know, the left and the right. And there's never a conversation about what is the actual problem here. And it is the money. The money is broken. And Nico, you're going to talk with Seb Bunning later today on IRL. And it's literally going to be a full hour deep dive on this exact idea of just how everything is downstream from money. And once you have a broken money, if you're living on a broken money standard, then everything gets corrupted afterwards. And he who has the power of the money printer has the ultimate power here. And this is what the game is all about. It's all about the money. It will always be about the money. And now more people hopefully are starting to wake up because, again, humans are very, very simple creatures and our brains really only work in like one of two ways. You either chase pleasure or you try to avoid pain. Well, most people don't really learn until they start to feel the pain. And now we're seeing that everyone is starting to feel the pain of inflation. Well, rather, everyone besides Bitcoiners are starting to feel the pain of inflation, and they're wondering for ways to fix this. We say it all the time. There is no political solution to this. There is nothing that we can do from within the system that will fix the system. Hence why I think it was yesterday or maybe on Monday when was it yesterday? I don't know, when we were with the Nassim
Taleb.
Yeah, the Nassim Taleb.
I think it was yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah, it was
where,
yesterday.
you know, we played that Jack Mallers clip where he basically says, like, this is about building a better system, an alternative system that's outside of the control of the banking cabal, outside of the control of the central bankers. And this is what it's all about. It's having a money that no one can manipulate. And once you start to kind of separate yourself from just the idea of number go up. Like, yes, Bitcoin price will go up because fiat is infinite, and that means they can print as much money as possible, which means your purchasing power will eventually go up because Bitcoin is hard capped and they can't debase it. So this is where we are right now, where people are starting to wake up that, hey, maybe there is an alternative here. Maybe we don't have to just be pawns in the fiat games and opt out and opt into something that is better for every single one of us. And this is what is happening in real time. Yes, I know us Bitcoiners aren't really that happy about politicians basically ending up on our doorstep. But now that conversation is happening, and now we can really incept the ideas and the Bitcoin memes into the mainstream consciousness of don't trust but verify, of 21 million hard cap, of like what Nico always asks, why are we being forced to use a money that's designed to steal from us? And to that Saylor clip, we said it after the Bitcoin conference that I think the 2024 conference in Nashville is one of those defining moments where Bitcoin gets put into the mainstream conversation. It's been happening for the last couple of months, but now it's right out in front of everyone's faces. And there's one point in that clip that I really did like, was Saylor basically saying, like, this is why the millennials are so adamant about Bitcoin, is because they see the game and they're like, why am I going to play this game when we, at least from our perspective, you know, us millennials and younger have been through, I can't even count how many great, not only financial, great traumatic events in our lifetimes. Like, I think every pivotal moment of me becoming an adult has had another crazy event that we've had to go through. And this is why we're just like, man, have fun with your system. We're doing our own thing over here. Like, just get out of our way and we can fix this. It is that fourth turning vibe. And the millennials are, you know, if you believe in that fourth turning thesis, the millennials are the hero generation. It's upon us young people to take back our country, take back the world, because we're seeing that the people in power have literally taken everything and they put it in their own pockets. And now we're like, look, have fun. We're going to try something better and something different. And I think the biggest signal of Saylor saying that part on CNBC is these numbers that I mentioned last week, that the only people that are watching corporate television or corporate media or news channels in general are people that are like 60 plus. So Saylor knows who he's talking to. He's talking to the older generation with capital and being like, look, hey, you might think this Bitcoin thing's stupid, but the younger generation is fed up with your game. And so you better catch on to the game being played now, or else you're going to get left behind. And again, connecting this with all of the recent pension funds that are also starting to get involved with Bitcoin, Bitcoin's going to help every single one of us, because everyone knows, that is familiar with what is actually going on with the game, that the money is broken and they're going to continue to print money. And if they're going to continue to print money, then that just means everyone else is going to get poorer out there, and you need to protect yourself. No one in positions of power, no politician is going to do better for you than you can do for yourself. And you're going to have to critically think here. And that's why all of us young people, and again, you know, I get yelled at all the time because I, you know, flippantly always throw the boomers under the bus. But there are some boomers and silent generation in the chat that hang out with us, and Gen Xers that hang out with us and understand the game. And we're not here to, you know, throw you under the bus in that regard, because there are people that get what's going on. And the more people we get on our side, not only the faster that this happens, but it's a power and numbers game. Like, we are winning. We have a better monetary system. It's just most people don't understand what we're doing here. Hence why it's so easy for them to be flippant on the Bitcoin movement. But now that it's in the mainstream conversation, now that it's actually legitimized in the eyes of the biggest, wealthiest financial managers of the world, the conversation's only going to increase. And here we are. Like, this is the beginning of the end for the, you know, the financiers of Wall Street that manipulate the world. Like, the game is up, but only if you know what's going on, only if you're taking Bitcoin into custody, or else they will figure out some way. Again, you know, not to get too tinfoily here, but they are actively working on ways to try to control Bitcoin. And it's up to us to follow the correct Bitcoin fundamentals, so that we can maintain Bitcoin decentralization, so that we can maintain the freedom money that we fight so hard to, you know, opt out of the old system. Like, it's really incredible that this is where we are right now. And I always kind of joke that, like, you know, I'm too old to be a boomer at Woodstock, you know, for the freedom movement. I'm too young to be a TikTok star, you know, internet streamer, but I was born just in time to be an advocate for freedom money. Like, this is what it's about. It's about helping in usher the new world, which is going to be on the Bitcoin standard.
Amen to that. Yeah, born too late to be a TikToker. Born, what is it? Born.
Well, I think the real meme is like, born too late to explore space. Like
born just in time to be a YouTuber. All right, everybody. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to smash that like button and help us break 100 likes. We're already at 93 within the first hour of the show. So smash that like button if you guys are watching us on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Also, there's about 1,000 of you guys watching live. So there's plenty of people that haven't smashed the like button yet. Anyways, guys, stay tuned. We have an interesting, potentially spicy part of the show coming up. So let's check out the culture.
The Daily Culture.
All right, everybody, I do want to give a shout out, of course, to the Orange Pill app, one of our sponsors. Stack Friends Who Stack Sats joined the 11,500 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. To download it, check the link in the video description or scan the QR code on your screen. That will take you directly to the App Store where you can download it. And it's a great resource to connect with Bitcoiners when you're on the go. So let's say you're in a new city or you're traveling for a conference, or let's say you're in your city, you just don't know any Bitcoiners around you. You pull up the Orange Pill app. It has a really clever geographical feature. It'll show you the Bitcoiners near you, give you the ability to send them a message, also show you the Bitcoin only events near you as well. And it's one of the best ways to send me a message. So I don't really answer Twitter these days. I don't really answer emails. So if you want to reach me directly, send me a message on the Orange Pill app, and I make sure every week or so to get back to every single one of you guys. So download the Orange Pill app today, scan the QR code, or check the link in the description. Opti has the thing pulled up.
Wait. Let's not I don't want to pull it up yet. I want to blow the surprise here. But okay, so today's culture, Nico said something on yesterday's show that I thought we can unpack a little more on today's show. And he says, he's like, I already foresee that in the near future, they're going to be saying some kind of memetics on the vein of Bitcoin is dangerous for our democracy. And we're not the only ones that have picked up on this. I actually had a thread that I wanted to bring on here, and I'm going to bring on today. It happened last week, but it's really diving down on that same thesis. And I know you guys don't care about politics, and I'm apolitical, but we did hear, Kamala Harris, pick her latest vice president candidate, and it really is much more than just Bitcoin being on the ballot sheet. I know I'm on YouTube, so Nico, sorry, but this might be the show that we finally get canceled on.
No,
but it seems like we have two choices in this election coming up, and it is a ticket of Marxists and a seemingly ticket of Americans. So let me unpack this a little bit. So I do have some videos here, and then the whole point of this is just to give context to the threads that I want to pull up here. So this isn't about the politics or the candidates here. It's just kind of showing what the stakes are on the elections here. So here's a video, a greatest hits of Kamala Harris and her word choices, giving away what her intentions are of equitable distribution and equity, which is basically just repackaged versions of Karl Marx popularized slogan from each according to his ability to each according to his needs, meaning a redistribution of wealth. So I'm gonna just play a little bit of this, and then I'm gonna play or just show you a video.
Before you do that, like, could you pull up Elon? I'll pull it. Could you pull up Elon's Twitter?
Yeah.
Let's get some firepower behind this.
Okay. What am I looking for? Oh, wow. Okay.
The pinned tweet.
Okay. All right. Well, even better. Perfectly stated. Okay, let's go.
Could you read what Elon said?
Okay, yeah, throw me under the bus here. But yes, Elon Musk says Kamala is quite literally a communist.
We didn't say that. That is Elon's words.
Saying it. She wants not merely equal opportunity, but equal outcomes. And let's watch this.
It has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. Equitable distribution. Giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place.
Yikes.
And
Yikes. Enough of that. Enough of that. So as Bitcoiners, we obviously believe in equal opportunity. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. It is the most equitable money in the world. Literally anyone on planet Earth, if they understand what's going on, you can save in money that no one can take from you, that no one has, you know, more favor in the system like the fiat system that we are a part of. Apparently, you can see the trend of if the Harris Walz presidency gets put in place, they're going to be very, very bad for Bitcoin, because they're basically going to say it's not fair for people to have Bitcoin. Well,
I'll go deeper than that, because Elon already opened the can of worms. Okay, so you can't have communism on a Bitcoin standard. Communism, fifth tenet of the Communist Manifesto, talks about the necessity of a central bank. If you don't have a central bank, you don't have effective wealth redistribution mechanisms. Without effective wealth redistribution via taxation and via inflation, you can't have equity. Like you can't take from someone and give to someone else effectively, right? So that being said, like that, now that I've explained that, like, is it really surprising that Elizabeth Warren has such an anti-Bitcoin stance? Like, is that really that surprising? I don't think that's surprising. And also, like, what happens when you take away the government's ability just to create money out of thin air? Like, politicians can no longer promise free things anymore. Their only way of raising money, like taxation, is via direct taxation. So they actually have to do good by their constituents. They can't get away with the hidden tax of inflation, which is how they pay for things. So like, it's a really kind of deep rabbit hole. But yeah, I mean, like Elon said it. Like the thing with the equity thing, I mean, like, think about, like, if you just break down what she's saying, it's like, forget about equal opportunity. Like, everyone should end up at the same point, regardless of effort. That's what she's saying. So if I'm putting in 10 years of work, I should end up at the same place as someone who decided that they just wanted to put in, half a year of work over 10 years. Wouldn't you say that the person that put in more work should deserve more? Right? That's what you would say, but that's what she's saying, that shouldn't happen. So how is she going to make that happen? Well, she's going to take from someone that has more than what they should, according to her, and then give it to someone else. That requires coercion, and that requires effective wealth redistribution. I think they're maxed out on the taxes. I think, what's the highest income tax in the US is like 40%. Maybe they can get away with 50, maybe 55, but max, before people are going to be like, what the fuck? So, but that's not enough. How do they get away with the rest? They get away with the rest via inflation. Inflation is the key. It's what makes the machine run and spin. So yeah, I mean, like, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy, this election, what is like coming up, what's in front of us. And then like sprinkle in the assassination attempt in there. That was freaking crazy. That was nuts. And yeah, I mean, some pretty crazy things that, are around the corner. And, being someone that originally came from Venezuela, like, Venezuela was one of the wealthiest countries in South America due to large amounts of oil. And within 15, 20 years, this collectivist ideology just completely just destroyed the country. And there was a giant brain drain, and people just fled overseas, and Venezuela lost its smartest people. And it's just crazy. It's very sad, So, to think that after 100 years of trial and error, right? Because maybe you could have made an argument maybe you could have made an argument when the Russian Revolution happened that, you know, maybe this whole communist thing could work. But like after 100 years of various experiments on various different continents, and the total like blood toll was like 100 million deaths, I think it's safe to say that communism doesn't work as a political philosophy.
It's never been tried correctly, Nico. Come on.
And you know, as an economic philosophy either. And the reason is simple. Like the central planners, the politicians, they can't plan enough to solve the resource allocation problem. So like that's the reason that, like, you know, all these socialist countries or communist countries, they run out of resources, or like you see the bread lines. It's because the central planners, they don't know how to allocate to what resource. And that's something that the market does via price signals, right? Every time you buy something, you're essentially sending the market a signal that like, okay, make more of this because I'm buying more of this. And that's something that the central planners have never been able to figure out. Like even in communist China, they ended up pivoting in the 90s to a little bit more of a free market economy because they realized that this wasn't going to work out. So you kind of have like a hybrid in China, and even in Vietnam too. There's like a hybrid model. There's free market, and then you could say the government is I don't know how that works, but the point is that like I think this would be terrible.
Well, let's keep it going, Nico. Let's keep it going.
Oh my God, there's more.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's keep it going. Let's see what Kamala's VP contender thinks.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. But we can
ask how that neighborliness worked out for, you know, the Chinese and the Russians out there. But anyways, that wasn't just the point of this whole thing. I know we went on a little tirade here, but remember the meme we've been saying about Bitcoin and Bitcoiners for a long time, that once Bitcoin does what we say it's going to do, they're going to call us lucky. Well, it's starting to get to the point where they're not just going to call us lucky. They're literally going to do what Nico said yesterday. You know, Bitcoin is a danger to our democracy, or going further, as Rajat says, you know, I could already see the headlines in 30 years. Owning 10,000 sats should be illegal. Tax the Bitcoin holders. But this is what I really wanted to do and show today, because I think this is a great thread. And I know we're running a little long, so I'll just read some of them.
No, we still got time, dude. We got
okay, minutes. Cool. But this is probably where we're going. There's a non-zero chance that this is where we're going to be. So Michael R. Sullivan, great thread, bro. And he goes, Bitcoin will eventually hit $1 billion, but it will come with a cost. There are a class of people who are going to resent us. I've compiled a collection of violent political quotes about billionaires and translated it into Bitcoin terms. So just, you know, being paranoid and, you know, forecasting where things can possibly go. Let's read some of these classic quotes, but in Bitcoin terms, because they're absolutely great. So whole coiners should not exist. Bernie Sanders. Okay. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez.
No,
Every Bitcoin.
This is parody, to be
This
specific.
is parody. Exactly. This is just you know,
this
just some lulz here.
These aren't actual quotes.
But this is just repurposing some of their famous quotes in Bitcoin terms. So every Bitcoin maximalist is a policy failure. Love to hear it. Or we got whole coiners should be taxed out of existence. Their fortunes should be redistributed to fund social programs and reduce inequality. Thomas Piketty. Or, you know, we can't afford to have anti-government Bitcoin holders. They are not a sign of a healthy economy, but a failure of our system. Or moving forward, Noam Chomsky. Whole coiners are the people who are in a position to impose massive suffering on millions of people without accountability. Or, you know, another one. Bitcoiners are the carbon bombs of the global economy and their wealth and the power of direct links. Okay. So enough of this. But you get the point. No, you get the point.
And I agree. But like, okay, so normally these people wouldn't have power, right? The reason they have power is because of fiat. Without fiat, doesn't matter, right? You still got to build a business. You got to build something up. So the reason that politics takes such a central role in our society today is because money and state are one. With the separation of money and state, politics is going to take a back seat, right? It's no longer as important as it is today. And regardless of the envy and the the people, like they feel like there's and wealth inequality, you could definitely make that is definitely a problem. That is definitely an issue. I just don't think that coercive wealth redistribution via government is the solution to that. I think fixing the money is the solution to that. But anyways, I think with the separation of money and state, the people that are like basically advocating for stealing from someone to give to someone else, they're not going to have the power that they once had under a fiat standard. And I think, like I said, the world's going to be a much better place for it. And yes, like, you know, in the book, The Sovereign Individual, I forget how he characterizes the people that get left behind. I forget what the word is specifically, but yes, there's going to be a lot of people, a big portion of the population that didn't listen to you, that didn't listen to us all these years, and they hate the idea of everyone gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve, because they truly deserve, they believe that they deserve better. And there's definitely going to be a tremendous amount of envy, and there's definitely going to be a tremendous amount of people that are not going to be okay with that. And that could potentially fuel the things that you're saying. But like I said, I think, you know, the things that Bitcoin gives you, which is really the ability to store your wealth in a sovereign manner without any fear of theft. Like if you do it right, if you do cold storage right. And then not only that, but the power that gives you, because it gives you the power to vote with your feet, right? Like if, you know, like Opti and I joke about this all the time. We're like, look, like if the US goes a certain way, and it was getting really dark, and now it's starting to get dark again, when the Biden administration started locking the samurai guys in jail. And you're starting to see videos coming out of the UK about like, we are here to arrest you today because you posted something on Facebook. Like it was freaking crazy, right? You can imagine that like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and basically saying like self-custody Bitcoin is not, like, it's illegal. It's a danger to society. It's a danger to democracy. No. It's a danger to their system, right? And this is like something that you have to wrap your head around as a Bitcoiner, is that when you take self-custody of your Bitcoin, it gives you so much power as an individual. It changes the balance of power from the state back to the individual. You can't do that with gold. Its physical characteristics limit your ability to do it with gold. Plus, not to mention the fact that gold has an inflation rate. Like they find a certain amount of gold in the ground every single year. If the price of gold goes up, they mine more gold. And that inflation rate stays relatively the same. But with Bitcoin, that inflation rate gets cut in half, which that basically determines that it's going up forever, Laura. And now you have, if you do it right, if you learn how to take self-custody, you've essentially perfected the custody thing. And what does that benefit? That benefits you, the individual. You know how powerful it is to be able to write down or punch into titanium a 12-word seed phrase, and you can theoretically store millions, billions, trillions of dollars in it. And if you're in a pickle, you can memorize it, right? Like, think about how empowered. Oh, and you can take it to the grave if you don't show it to anybody. Like, that is so empowering as an individual. And that's going to just change society as a whole. But for people that have been operating in that previous system, they're going to hate this system, because there's no way to co-opt it the way that they've been operating, the way that they've been used to co-opting it, which is through the political process. Like Bitcoin ain't democratic, bro. People don't get that. Bitcoin ain't democratic. Like if you run a node, you run your own version of the software, and you as an individual get to decide whether you're going to upgrade to the new software, or you're going to upgrade, or you're not going to upgrade to the new software. Period. That's it. It doesn't change. So if the new base layer of society ain't democratic, what do you think that's going to do to the rest of the political system? Right? There are deeper implications to it. But I think like I said, I think it's going to change the world for the better. And I think it's going to protect, this is my last bit, Opti, because I've been on a rant. It's going to protect individuals from theft. That's what it boils down to. And if you look at human history, it's always about, it's so much easier to steal shit than to build things. So people have been incentivized to just, I don't feel like working straight 10 years, but that guy did. I deserve some of his things. But now that there's a perfect thing that protects you, if you take self-custody of it properly, and the return on violence isn't there, like it was in the current system, then the system is going to be forced to change. And then there is a pivotal moment in human history. And I do believe that Bitcoin is that tool for individuals. And I think most people are just like the way that fees are going on right now, Opti, I think most people on planet Earth aren't going to be operating on the main chain. Like
there's layer 2s and 3s for that.
There's layer 2s and 3s, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, you know, like you want to get on the standard now. You don't want to wait for this thing to be $1 million. Now, it doesn't mean that Bitcoin ain't going to benefit you. I think Bitcoin is the better money, but you know, forget about, I don't know what it is in multiples, but anyways, I made my point, bro. I'm glad that you brought this up.
Let me put a little bow tie on this.
It's very culturally relevant.
Yeah, let me put my last two sats here. Look, first and foremost, I am critical of both sides of the political aisle because none of them have the solution. But it's becoming very clear that there is a very real collectivist tint to one side of the party. And as a sovereign Bitcoiner, as someone that wants more individual freedom, it's becoming very clear that it's very important to continue to expose this type of stuff so more people realize exactly the rhetoric that they're hearing out there. We are Bitcoiners. We want you as an individual to thrive because that means that me as an individual will thrive. And as much as I consider myself kind of libertarian in a lot of things, I don't think libertarianism can really survive when the other side of the aisle is actively focused on what you do as a person. So we got to instill these ideas and have a money that can't be stolen. It's all about theft. And this is where we're at right now. One side of the aisle wants to steal from you and justify it. And the other side of the aisle is like, look, just let me be. But we can't actively have these conversations if we avoid these topics. We're Bitcoiners. We want to save our Bitcoin. We don't want to save in the money that's designed to steal from us. And this is where we are right now. The traditional financial world is absolutely wrecked. And it's the money. It's always about the money. And it will always be about the money. And when Bitcoin succeeds, there's a non-zero chance that we end up in a future where we get villainized because we saved and put our hard work and our labor into something that isn't designed to steal from us. It's literally open for everyone, and yet people want to fight it. It's absolutely
not about, but
ludicrous.
It's never about like, it's never, the issue is the revolution. The issue is a means to an end. It's not the actual issue that is the problem. So like, to go back to your point, like, you know, Bitcoin is the most equitable money the world has ever seen, right? It's collectively owned by everyone and it's collectively owned by no one, right? So you can't make those arguments. It's a much better money for someone in the developing world that didn't get the privileges that we have, right? Now you can just download a Bitcoin wallet and now you have access to the Bitcoin network. So you can't come to me from that side and try to make those arguments because I just don't believe you. So, you know, I think Bitcoin has a way of exposing incentives. And I think anyone who is against Bitcoin is inevitably going to expose themselves for what they are. And it's tyrants. That's really what it is. Bitcoin exposes tyranny. And you know, I think it's going to expose Elizabeth Warren for what she is as a fraud, and it's going to expose on the Republican side. I think there was, I don't think so anymore, but there was people that signed up to some of her bills, and it's going to expose them for what they are. And these are politicians that want to retain the privilege of being able to create money for free that the rest of us have to work for. Simple as that. Anyways,
exit and stay humble.
Yeah, it's gonna be a crazy couple of years, but that definitely gives stuff for me and Opti to talk about. We might have to change locations, but stay tuned.
No, we ain't going nowhere.
Anyway. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. I'm your host, Nico. It's my co-host, Optimus Fields. See you guys later. Peace.
Episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, on a mission to enable independence.